Okay, cool. So let me begin by walking you through what's happening in the worlds of the foundational models that drive all of Gen AI. Since the time when OpenAI shocked the world, in a plethora of models created both closed source as well as open source from all these various sources. The size of the circles up there show the relative size of the parameter sizes of each model, and what we can see is that while open source models are catching up in terms of performance versus a human metric with a closed source model, there is still a gap that large closed source models maintain over open source. Although which one is at the lead is always a multi-horse race. So in this scenario, what we do when we build applications that use LLMs, we make them from the ground up in a way so that we can change the underlying LLMs at a moment's notice. Similarly, when you look at how the performance of LLMs, the performance of Gen AI models relate to base human performance, one by one, the dominoes are falling. The average human is losing out to AI, which means that increasingly we are coming into a world where some AI tasks, some regular AI tasks, not expert tasks, can be done better by LLMs. Not only that, they can be done far cheaper than they used to be only a few months ago. The y-axis on this curve is logarithmic. So the fall is exponential. Don't worry so much about the cost of the implementation today. Make the best use case, the unit economics will follow. There is a debate that goes back and forth on whether to build your own small model and fine-tune it with your own data, or to use the flagship model out there. The answer is it depends. Depends on what data you got, what are you trying to do. If you're trying to make a SQL query generator to get data out of your own data lake, actually you will do pretty fine with a pretty small model, learn the right, fine-tune the right way on your data. But if you're trying to do something as basic as grade school math, guess what? That will just not get you there. Shocking, isn't it? Coming from generative AI to agentic AI, this has been in many ways the year of agentic AI, at least in talk. We have seen how foundational models have evolved to learn over knowledge bases, with RAGs, and learn to use tools to become agents, and how agents can talk to each other and create agentic AI systems. How we at L&T Finance approach this, first of all, we are use case driven. We start with what is the end goal, and if it turns out that a pretty deterministic set of agents will do, we don't bother ourselves and go and force fit a Gen AI agent. But as it turns out, like I showed in the previous slide, that even more and more use cases are better done by AI. So we are doing that where we are using chatbots, this use RAG. We are using data copilots that put MCP on top of our data lake. And we have voice AI agents that can run the same way. And increasingly, we are inching into agentic AIs where multi-agent, multi-systems coordinate with each other. And as we go, and as the whole world goes into the agentic enterprise, especially in the BFSI segment, regulators around the world are waking up to how, if at all, to regulate AI. There are multiple jurisdictions with different views on this. we happen to be in a relatively progressive environment here in India, where the Free AI Committee, which I had the pleasure of testifying to at the time when they were coming up with the recommendations, have actually sided on the side of risk-calibrated AI innovations over throttling progress. And we have adapted our approach to how we build AI systems within the enterprise accordingly. Now, you must have by now heard about that famous MIT paper, or infamous, that 95% of AI use cases fail to make it to production. Even Peter referred to it today in his talk. Now, if you dig deeper, what it really means is that the workflows today, unless they are reimagined as AI first, and the culture that it takes inside the company to, just like it takes a village to raise a child, it takes a culture to raise AI, right? And that is what we have been doing over this past 1 year. And by now, we are at a point where we can build AI systems that deliver value. A great example of that is Cyclops, our real-time AI-driven underwriting engine. At the heart of it is data, right? So the whole point of Cyclops is, instead of using just a one-dimensional data like a credit bureau record, you take data from all different sources that are relevant for that particular underwriting discipline, create a prediction engine that never blinks, in Ramesh's words, and can run multiple models, both individual models based on individual data sources as well as their combination, in order to come up with the right segments of users. We have done this first with our two-wheeler business, where it is disbursing about 90,000 loans every month, with data as diverse as the banking records of users, the payment footprints, the digital footprints from their phones and other things, as well as geospatial information about where they live. And this is how our entire two-wheeler book today runs. A very different world is the farm, where we use very different sets of data, where data like the geospatial data and the satellite data that gives us better idea about the crop helps us do better models for tractor lending. And these are not simple models. Takes, for example, 10 individual models ensembled by another 12, and then we disburse loans at the rate of 18,000 per month. On personal loans, we have built a similar model. It is going to go into production very soon, where we do things like generating geogrids out of open source information and enrich other sources of data like the bureau and payments data. And finally, in our small business lending, we take a similar approach where we combine the consumer and the commercial data, which helps us make a sharper decision and enable decisions for SME loans. Now, this is not like turning on a switch. You have done fitting a model, that's not where it stops, or it begins. It took us about 8 months to go from the concept of Cyclops to the point where we could actually disburse the first ever loan on Cyclops. But we were not, we deliberately took the decision not to take the entire system into Cyclops. We ran a gradual A/B experiment where we used Cyclops as a treatment and increasingly increased that percentage month over month until we got convinced that yes, it is indeed, number one, working without any bugs, and number two, producing the gain in credit losses that we could imagine. And then we took the learnings and we upgraded Cyclops twice, and The book that, as a result, is being created, the first of them will only get matured in January. So how do we know that we actually improve things with Cyclops? We do know that from early indicators like GNS, the percentage of users who bounce their first check. Now, that number, from the time when we first launched Cyclops to now, it has dropped by almost 1/3. Not only that, if we look at the vintage charts of the 30-plus days past due, DPD, in the two-wheeler portfolio, it tells an interesting story. So if we look at the first data with which we started training Cyclops, which was 12 months before we even deployed Cyclops, that was the dark blue line. And that line, shows that it was somewhere in the middle, which means the portfolio was at that level. So higher the line, by the way, the worse it is, the lower the line, the better it is. And when we launched Cyclops and ran this A/B experiment I told you about, it degraded up to the gray line, which means that the overall two-wheeler market actually was degrading month over month, year over year. But as we launched Cyclops and improved it over those two generations, the version 2 of Cyclops, which is a light blue, light green line, we see that our loss rates, apples to apples, are only 1/3 of what they were. You take this forward, even if you assume the same flow rates, which, by the way, will improve because of things that we'll tell you about soon, it will be otherwise on the path to getting our credit losses down to only 1/3 of what it was. We will not stop here. Like I mentioned, Cyclops is a framework where we keep adding data and we can keep coming up with models. One of the great problems in the two-wheeler segment is the problem of shikandis, of mules. So these are when somebody with a bad credit wants to get a bike, he knows he has a bad credit, so what he does is he gets somebody, friend or family, with a much better credit and say, hey, you just get the bike for me, don't worry, I will pay the EMI. Well, what happens after they get the loan, they default anyway. This is a very hard thing to catch. And we have cracked this puzzle where by taking a set of information, both in the form of graphs as well as other ways, we have found out a model, we have created a model that can cut out almost 1/3 of these potentially defaulting loans. And that will enable us to open up markets that were too dangerous to get into otherwise. And Cyclops is not a one-shot thing. Like I mentioned, for farm, we went to very different data sources. From satellite data, we could come up with agro models. From nightlight and infrastructure information, we could come up with geospatial models that will help us understand how far is a mandi and what are the mandi prices from a farmer. And this being a much more human-intensive lending, there's always field investigation that happens, and we have figured out a way to do structured data extraction from those field investigation reports, and we bring this all together to make the Farm Cyclops underwriting engine that produces a portfolio that, while it is still under A/B testing, we can already see that the net non-starter rates, which are the users who default on their first EMI itself, has dropped by a factor of 8x. Early days, but very promising. Now, there's usually a notion that when you increase profit, it curtails growth. Has not been so. And here is proof. Since this January, Cyclops has been used for the entire two-wheeler portfolio, and we have just had our best month ever. Now, part of it was because of festival season, but you can see even before that there was a secular growth trajectory. And similarly, it is growing in other of the LOBs. giving us enough confidence that we are going to launch it for the other LOBs as well. Now, not only does AI help us make better machine learning model, it helps us make sense of unstructured data. One of the big problems in dense Indian cities is how do you differentiate between a user living in one of these beautiful houses in Mumbai versus the slum next door? Well, from satellite information of how the structures of houses are, the sizes of them, the alignments of them, the spaces in between, and so on and so forth, we are able to take most urban Indian cities and get to a granularity of a 200 meter by 200 meter, and we can figure out, which is way, way, way better than the level of a pin code, and we are able to tell a potentially high default region to a low default region. This, by the way, does not mean that we do not lend in the red areas. It is just one more input into Cyclops. Another example of using GenAI to make sense of unstructured data. When a tractor borrower unfortunately defaults on their loan and we have to repossess their tractor, the price at which we offer the tractor to the market at auction depends a lot on the quality of the tires. Now, at the time when this tractor is repossessed, the field agent takes pictures of the tractor, and now we have a model which is purely GenAI based with an 88% accuracy, which can differentiate between a good tractor versus a bad tractor. The price swing between them, plus or minus, can be plus 12 or minus 12%. It's very important to price this right, because if we price it at the average, then for the good tractors, we lose money at auction, and for the bad tractors, they simply don't sell. Another type of modality is voice. So in this conference today, we had heard a few different demos of voice AI. We have actually taken it to production. So for defaulting customers who need a nudge over a phone call, used to use humans to make those nudges. Now, that's not always possible when there's a holiday or other disruptions that come in the middle. So instead, we today use phone calls like these to call these customers and nudge them for the payment. Audio in play? Okay. So anyway, there is an audio. It would have been great if it played, but we are able to make these calls in a way where, according to a small sample study, roughly 80% of people, we believe, can't even make the differentiation between whether the call came from an AI bot or whether it came from a human. And the results show 50% of the time, the AI bot can actually collect the money. And this is available all over India in 11 Indian languages. Another way in which we are taking AI forward to the customer is through our chatbot, which is available on our website, Kai. Whether you have a loan with us or multiple loans, you can ask, okay, tell me what is my account balance or whatever it is, and that's a pretty sensitive information, right? So it will actually prompt you to authenticate yourself, in this case, with an OTP on your phone. And if you have multiple loans, can even conversationally figure out which one is it that you are concerned about, and give you all the instructions about how to pay or how much you have left or stuff like that. On the other hand, if you're curious about what it takes to get a loan from us, from any of our businesses, including our newest business of gold loan, you can do that using the same chatbot in 11 Indian languages. Whatever you speak, Kai speaks back. Now, all of this is ultimately possible if the data that we use is good, is of high quality, has no space, does not have erroneous values, is consumed and made available to the models in real time, and has a business glossary attached to it which can be queried and understood and build models upon. And we have built a lot of tooling and are in the process of making it absolutely perfect to do it that way.
Hey, Debarag, too much tough stuff that went above my head. They sent me from downstairs to tell you that you have something cool to launch today?
Absolutely. So we told you about how we are doing Nostradamus, our prophetic engine for your portfolios. And we are launching it today. We can do it in front of everybody.
Nostradamus as named after the French clairvoyant and prophet?
Yes, because we predict. We predict the future.
Oh, you predict the future. So let's have a look as to what Nostradamus can do. This is good, but can we know something more? You just showed a logo and said that you have launched this. I really didn't see what was inside it.
Well,
so
it shows the journey of what happens with the different customers and how we extract the data. Now we can show you how does the data convert into insight, how managers or collection agents can look at it.
So you're saying that this will help us run our business better?
Absolutely.
Okay, let's have a look at it. So, Debarag, I understand that Nostradamus has 11 algorithms powering it. Will you like to tell us as to how you use AI to power this platform?
So Nostradamus gives us data from all different sources. Now, ultimately, what we want to know is the future. So we have come up with models that can find early warning signals for either those clusters of borrowers who are likely to go bad, will likely to go and miss their payments and so on and so forth, even before they have even gone into anything beyond zero DPD. Not only that, from how customers are doing in other micro segments, that can discover areas, both geographical areas as well as age, in terms of product, in terms of their LTV values, and so on and so forth, where we should lend more. And those are the areas where Nostradamus can be used to tweak the Cyclops engine that we talked about and make the whole flow more automated.
And this is completely automated without human intervention.
Well, today, a human can look at the dashboard and make a decision. Eventually, the copilot that we showed can be potentially given the ability to suggest the right action. And theoretically, you can take the human out of the loop, but it's probably early days for that.
Ramesh, Debarag's team has built the brain of Nostradamus, but your team has powered the engineering behind it. Would you like to talk about the engineering behind Nostradamus?
Yes, of course. Obviously, a tool like that requires precision engineering that's been talked about. We have built and augmented it with world-class observability platforms underneath the covers, with every API, external interface, database, emitting telemetry that's being fed into predictive monitoring tools, and that can determine simple actions like automatic scaling, for example, all being done through agentic AI bots. That's how we augmented it.
Thank you. Thank you, Ramesh. Thanks, Debarag. That's
Thank
an
you.
amazing piece of tool, and we hope to put it to good use.
Wait. One more thing. I almost forgot. We have something great.
You have one more thing?
Yes. You gotta see this.
Okay.
So, in fact, we have a video. Can we play?
Awesome. In fact, I think Helios is already in production and has dropped the SME underwriting time frame from 6 hours to 30 minutes. Thank you for joining us and joining us with these launches today. RAISE is an event which we try to sort of disseminate our learnings of AI's applicability in BFSI, and may 1,000 AI flowers bloom in BFSI. Thank you, Debarag. Any
Thank you.
parting words from you?
No, I think, hope you are enjoying the sessions. We are only in our first year plus of this mission, and a lot more interesting things to come over the future.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you to Mr. Roy, Dr. Banerjee, and Mr. Aital for that exciting reveal. Ladies and gentlemen, can we give these three gentlemen a huge round of applause, please?